But when we subdivide it and sell it off, we are in trouble. This world is a world ruled by one divine plan. This divine plan does not object to the reasonable use of an economic system. It does not forbid or prohibit accumulation, but it does demand right use. And right use is something that we have to think about quite a bit these days. I remember many years ago in New York, I had talked with a very successful woman who was in finance. In those days, she was not able to sit on the stock exchange and had to work through brokers. But she had a large estate. One day we were talking, and she said, you know, there's nothing in the world that I would enjoy more than to become aware of the philosophic and religious values of life. I would like to settle back to contemplate some type of reality beyond the stock market. But she says, I can't. I'm completely locked. Every day is another problem. If I do not keep my mind on this, I'll be wiped out. I have to give my life to protecting what I have. Someday we're going to have to realize that we must give our lives to protect something that we are. And that if what we have makes it impossible for us to grow, then we are in very serious situation. So our problem with money is to use it as it was intended, as a medium of exchange, as a way of accomplishing a simpler social relationship, as an indication of the integrity of the seller and the buyer, and to make possible involved transactions of a world ever increasing in population, which must find ways to universalize its needs. We have to have these media, but they have to be in the hands of enlightened persons. They have to be freed from over-ambition. They have to be freed from monopoly. They have to be freed from ulterior motives. We have to learn what is the truth about some of these factors and situations. There is a revolt against most of the prevailing institutions simply because we can't live with them, because they make us sick. We are forced to take on, in daily living, exploitation policies which make us sensitive to values that do not actually exist, and lose sensitivity to that which is true. The beginning of wisdom and the beginning of solution is that the human being must grow. And this growth is going to come, and he cannot prevent it. But the main point is that when growth begins, the individual must be open to it. He must be glad that it happens. He must value a magnificent experience far above a possession. He must put the possession of his own life in his own hands and lead it correctly. We have been given a kind of free will, which is really only a power of choice, as Aquinas points out. But we have the right of making decision. And day by day, more people are making better decisions. And these better decisions will ultimately prevail. But they may only come when some situations become so desperate that we cannot survive without them. We're going to grow. We're going to succeed. We're going to use the instruments we have created. We are going to use all that science can give us. We're going to use philosophy properly. We're going to use our economic system constructively. We are going to organize our industrial structure so that all will have a fair part in the resources of nature. We will gradually integrate our religions, breaking through barriers of creed and sect, until finally we come into the realization that religion is merely man's effort to interpret from within himself the great laws of life under which he lives. These things will come because man will survive. I noticed coming down here this morning, I went over a little piece of property where were stones set together. And between two little blocks of concrete so close together that you could hardly put a knife blade between them, a little plant was growing. It was just a little weed, but it was certainly having a hard time. And yet it had adjusted to its need magnificently. It survived what would normally be called an irresponsible and inevitable defeat. It survived because there was life in it, and that life was stronger than concrete. That life was going to be lived if there was any human possibility or natural possibility for its survival. We are much more important than that little plant, though perhaps in the universe it might take precedence in some matters. But in general, each individual has survival built in. He has the power forever to overcome that which he outgrows, become wiser, better, and nobler in all of his dreams and all of his aspirations. Success, eternal fulfillment is his, and a great cycle of lives which we must live, life after life, ensures the ultimate salvation of all that lives. The main thing is not to make it quite so hard on each other right now. If we're all going to survive, if we're all going to be ultimately enlightened and true and honorable, cooperative and loving and friendly, we might as well start now as wait until we get some more black and blue marks. There is no reason why, if the end that we seek is peace, that we shouldn't start to do everything we can to promote it now. And while we cannot always change others, we can come gradually to a relationship with life by which we understand the eternal benevolence that guides us through sorrow and misery to the fulfillment of our own purpose. Children make mistakes, but they outgrow them because they learn better. We are children. We have made mistakes. We are making mistakes. The only problem that is important is that we shall outgrow them. And we outgrow them by living above them, by changing our own attitudes toward them, by using all material things as symbols of spiritual values and spiritual realities. We need to have our dollar bill ensouled, and that cannot be done at the mint. The ensoulment of a dollar bill is up to the individual who holds it in his hand. If he uses it wisely, he gives his own soul to it, and it serves the common good. If he uses it unwisely, it is but an empty body to go down to mortality. So it is up to us to ensoul the good, put new spiritual dimensions upon the institutions that could serve us well, but which we have permitted to fall into decline because of our own selfishness. We cannot be selfish and happy. We cannot be overambitious and live in peace. We cannot break the rules of life without a power that is greater than ourselves stepping in. We know this from experience. It is time for us to respect, regard, and love that power that steps in, for it is our hope of salvation. Thank you very much.